Good afternoon. Welcome to the Friday Matinee. I'm your host, George Cummings, along with...
Tori in for T.
That's like, is that your full name now? Tori in for T.
I've been saying that all week.
I'm Tori in for T.
Tori in for T.
It's all one,
in
it's
for
like
T is,
share.
Yeah, in for T is the last name.
That's right. Now, Tori, I showed you a photograph before we went on the air of this wonderful realistic looking pigeon that I had in my hand that was decorated in a certain armband. And I said that it also did the little salute. And that was for a play I did a few years ago called The Producers, where I was in there as the writer. And not only that particular character had a pigeon coop with pigeons that danced along to the song. Now, that's not an easy thing to put together.
I was going to say,
especially for someone like me who can't nail two pieces of wood together.
Right.
So
how does that happen? How does that come to be?
Well, there's that whole 3D idea of art, but finding out also, and this is how I got to know our guest, because actually I was kind of wrestling to see if I can kind of bring that little bird home with me, but he had his eye out. He had his eye on me. And but finding out over the years that he also is a fantastic artist, a painter, and these wonderfully artistic looking pieces that he has. Some of them themed around a certain theme, and there's all kinds of different kind of fantasy themes. And we've kind of have a mutual fan club here, and I think it's wonderful. And so we're going to welcome our guest, John Alexopoulos, and his lovely wife, Claudia, sitting in. So welcome to the Friday Matinee.
Thank you very much.
And this is a thing. So you're retired now. It seems like that's when you're focusing. You've really focused on your art in the last few years, right?
Yeah, well, I retired. It's been a little bit over 2 years from 38 years with Los Angeles Unified School District.
Wow. And give me a little bit of background on your artistic endeavors. Have you always been a painter and a 3D kind of developer there, or did it just kind of come about over the years?
Well, it kind of grew. I started off as a ceramics teacher for Los Angeles Unified back in like 1974, teaching ceramics for about 7 years at a high school level. I moved from there to a theater and performing arts magnet and did radio and television production along with stage design, theater production support for a magnet school for LA Unified, and then grew from there out into other venues, which I actually left that to move on to work for Six Flags Magic Mountain as their park designer. And that's when I got really into the entertainment, art, and stage design. Did a transfer from there over to Walt Disney Imagineering and worked as one of the Imagineers on the design of the park in France, doing the model design for that theme park. Returned from there back to teaching for a time and worked as a visual arts teacher, teaching graphics design, computer design, and painting for a number of years. That transferred into another career where I became the Visual and Performing Arts Design Advisor for Los Angeles Unified for the San Fernando Valley, and oversaw the Visual and Performing Arts programs at the schools in the San Fernando Valley for a couple of years.
Boy, George, it's a shame that you get people on the show with no experience.
Yes, it's
really sad.
Just lucked into
right?
it. Amazing.
Yeah, during those years, I continued as a freelance artist for various companies, including Six Flags. Moved from there actually into my final step, where I moved into administration and became the assistant principal at a high school for the last eight years of my career. And then during that time, began experiencing or exploring painting a little more in depth, but I hadn't really been able to concentrate on it till I retired. And then it's been in support of community theater here, along with visual arts in Santa Clarita, that I've been moving into.
And that's the thing. It's like I said, noticing it was the County Theater Guild where I started noticing that some of these things that are used to maybe have been built to compel the audience to use their imagination and their artistic license to these things that look incredibly realistic.
Thank you.
And so talking about let's talk about that kind of 3D design, and I know you talk a lot about steampunk too, which I want to talk a little bit, because this is all around kind of the idea that there are four sides or three sides, and it's not just something on a drawing, but taking it from the ideal level.
Yes.
To putting it out there, that is something that I can't grasp as a creative concept. What does it take to kind of get to that level?
Wow. For me, it begins generally with an idea, and then I will do some sketch work on it and do research, look into other designs that are out there, began to examine different possibilities. One piece of that actually is sitting in the queue line for Colossus at Magic Mountain. A few years ago, I was working on actually Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory for the Canyon Theater and needed a prop for them, and I got involved in building a laser that I thought would be a great prop on stage. Show ended, I ended up with that back in my shop, and then I began steampunking it out and converting it to copper, brass, flames, elements like that. And then recently when Six Flags did their Scream Punk area conversion, I brought that over to them, and that's now in the queue line for Colossus, along with a sign acknowledging my design work. That led into more of the Scream Punk area, where I redid some other elements into design for Colossus, the theme for the area. That's grown out of the designs I've done for them, where I've started with pencil sketches. I was able to design out the High Sierra territory from ground up. That was an interesting venue because at the time I was teaching at a school and teaching design and drawing, and I got the assignment to look at that area, and they had a week to do it. I said, wow, that's going to be while I'm not teaching. So I'd go home at night and do the designs, and I ended up redesigning the entire area of the facades, the restaurants, whatever else, and designing at that time what was High Sierra Territory's Yosemite Sam Falls. Designed enough of it with thematic elements in it that needed to be done that I ended up being hired to carve the sculptures to go into the area. I ended up carving full-size bears, full-size wolves, carving Warner Brothers characters and leading into that. So for me, the ideal is to come up with the idea, get it onto paper, and then visualize how it goes into 3 dimensions. I think some of the people I've worked with have been a little bit taken back when I sit there with like a piece of foam that's 12 inches thick, 4 feet wide, 8 feet tall, and walk in there with a saw and a file and carve it into something that looks like a realistic character.
Now,
How big must your workshop at home be? Has he taken over, Claudia, has he taken over the entire house? Or do you have a big workshop in the back? How big must be your workshop for all these 3D projects?
He just works in the garage.
So you have no wet place to put your car. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
The car's okay. The car's out on the street.
Cars are out on the street. They've
Yeah.
never been in the garage. But with some of those projects, I do work on site at Flags, or I'll work in another shop.
No, you said you take a big piece of
Foam. Yes.
and you make. What is the most elaborate thing that you've ever? So you take a big slab of foam, and think of something that you are so incredibly proud of that you've made, that you just whittled away into something fantastic out of an 8-foot. What did you say? 8-foot piece of.
Well, I guess you'd look at the Hurricane Harbor Water Park, the Lazy River Ride. There's huge arches that are about 12 feet tall, 22 feet wide, that have a 9-foot tall sculpture on top of it of a lost civilization. And I was able to carve the sculpture of the lost civilization along with the frieze work that goes on both sides for all of those.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Like that.
Just like that.
but I want to ask you about that because you started out teaching ceramics. What was your do you have an educational background in art and sculpting and 3D, or is it just kind of a learn over time?
I started off actually in science with an era to marine biology.
Wow.
Actually,
I could totally see the
I
transition.
took a required art class and thought, this is pretty nice. I'm enjoying this more than sitting in the lab doing the experiments, and it grew into a love of the ceramics, and I actually ended up majoring in ceramics, got my career started in teaching ceramics, and then grew into 2-dimensional art from the 3D, which I think has really helped me, because when I'm looking at things, I tend to think 3-dimensionally, and if I'm doing something, I'm aware of not just the height, the width, but also the depth that goes with it, or the fact that it needs to turn around.
And that's shifting to your art, your paintings.
Mm-hmm.
They have a very realistic, from a fantasy element, but a realistic approach where you talk about perspective and you talk about depth of field that you seem to have that gives it different than like a lot of what I see around here. And you have people who have, they'll paint wonderful bowls of fruit or things like that. And they're wonderful, but there's still that kind of flat element to it. And the ones that you have, and I think you brought one.
I brought one.
Let's take a quick look so I can kind of see, like you've got that there, and it's a wonderful fantasy painting. And this is for those of you,
Well, they'll be able to see at some point when it's up on the
but
on
this
YouTube.
this is Main Street in Disneyland, and a little girl's holding a Mickey Mouse balloon, but her silhouette shadow is Mickey Mouse, and you've got. I could see Main Street going all the way down. You have people behind her, and it's a really fascinating photo. A painting, and especially with the depth and, like I said, kind of the 3D quality to the drawing is absolutely amazing.
Well, the amazing things that stick out to me, I'm looking at this photo, and the pole looks almost like I can reach out and touch it. And the other part that I feel like I can stand on that balcony. There's a
Right.
balcony and a light pole that I feel like I can reach out and actually touch it. It's an amazing thing to see.
Thank you. Yeah. My wife specifically liked this one because she said it was a return to my old style of painting, which when I went into painting, I, at the time, had been doing a lot of design work for Disney, and I had been doing design work for flags, and I wanted to move into two-dimensional artwork of my own, and at the time I was a partner in an art representation firm that we had in the San Fernando Valley, and we thought, well, why don't you go ahead and start doing your own work, and we'll see what happens with it. And I began doing pieces that were 30 inches by 40 inches, which doesn't sound that large, but they're large-scale pieces. The one was called Labor of Love, which is a representation of the transformation of Pinocchio into a real boy on the workbench with Geppetto and the entire thing. But I got involved in that, and working with the brush I picked at the time, which was like a 4-0 brush, which is a 1/16 of an inch in diameter, I began working on a 30 by 40 inch painting, and it took untold like 300 to 400 hours to
A
complete
16th
this
of an
one.
inch.
Yeah. Took about
I think my eyeliner is bigger.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
eyeliner brush
took
is bigger than
literally
that.
about 200 or 300 hours at least to finish this one painting, and I thought this just isn't going to work.
Exactly.
But I kept going at that, and eventually I moved on to other things. And then about 2 years ago, we went on a trip, on a cruise up to Alaska to visit that area. And during that time, we're walking through the Tongass National Park, and my wife was with me, and she's pushing me, and she's going, why don't you take some pictures up here of some of these trees and then get some material so you can start actually painting again? And she did, and that's when I actually really got back into painting and started doing more works. That's when I actually joined the Santa Clarita Artists Association and began showing my work around Santa Clarita as well. And so it was a transition brought on by my wife and her impetus that said, you know what, take a step, move forward and do this.
It's always the wife.
It is.
that gives
She
you
is.
the-
Great
gives you the
support
motivation.
system. Great support system. And we know that our background at CTG, great support system you guys
Yeah.
have for each other.
And I want to talk to you about, you did have the event last weekend at Le Chien, am I right? How did
Yes.
that go?
That went very well. There was a gathering of about 40 artists at Le Chien that were the artists of the Santa Clarita Artists Association. It went from the morning through the afternoon. We had a great representation of people there, as well as wonderful food being served. Had people coming by viewing the artwork. I'm heading towards another show coming up at Fast Frame in Valencia, and that'll be in August. Heading up to Ventura this day, which is why I brought the one piece, to go to a couple of galleries in Ventura and see if I can get a connection up there. Finding it's not just about doing the work, it is about bringing yourself out there. So that's why I was
Of course.
so thankful to you to have me appear today, because getting myself out there is one of the necessities.
Oh, that's true.
Absolutely. But you have a great website. You know what, while we're talking about it, while we're on that subject, let's give out the website. And he's also on Facebook. You can see some of this fantastic, it's a great website. I'm looking behind George right now. How do you say that? Vintiquary?
It's Vintiquary, VINTIQUARY.com.
And also on Facebook, you can just find your name, John Alexopoulos.
Alexopoulos,
Let me
and-
spell that. Let me spell it for you.
Grab a pen.
ALEXOPOULOS on Facebook, and
Absolutely.
you can see all the artwork.
Are you linked over from the SE, the Artists Association website or anything like that? Or
Yes, I am,
Okay.
and I'm actually available through their website.
and I think that's seaa.org, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken,
it
or
is.
Santa Clarita Artists. Okay. Either way, if you Google
Yeah.
Santa Clarita Artists, look for John Alexopoulos. Start typing John Alex.
yeah,
So,
it'll
there you go.
appear.
There it is. So you've got that going. What's in the future for you as far as are you going to any other type of art mediums? Are you going to
In the future right now, I think I've got sets for the Canyon Theater for the upcoming production of Hello Dolly that's going to be going on. We're going to start that construction this next weekend and going on for the next month. And then we've got, I work along with a great gentleman, Doug Holliday, and we're working on the set design for the summer production at COC?
At COC?
The
PAC? Uh-huh.
At the PAC.
Wizard of Oz? Is that the one you're
Yeah,
talking about?
Wizard of Oz. And so it's difficult at times to find the balance of time between giving to the community and the time I spend with the Canyon Theater versus pulling the time for the personal artwork and then fitting into that time for family. So
Exactly.
yeah.
And you have a daughter and you have a granddaughter.
I have a wonderful daughter and a beautiful granddaughter, Haley Ray, who has been an inspiration to me for the past couple of years. She's 2.5 years old, and she lights up my life every time she comes over.
Have you done any paintings of her?
Actually, it's funny because the girl in the painting, The Dream, that you were just talking about, is how I might vision her in about 6 years' time if she were visiting Disneyland. And the purpose of the balloon with the shadow is I hope that she can come to feel the magic I feel when I'm walking down the streets and just have it come through her to where she's seeing that cast shadow of Mickey from just the light. Because when I go there or go to theme parks, I experience a personal magic just looking at the views, seeing the things, experiencing the entire park, and that kind of comes through in my art.
Absolutely lovely.
And then Claudia, of course, is a costume designer par excellence, and we've worked with her before on several occasions, and so the entire family has like a
lot of creative stuff
that's
going on.
right. And of course, Jennifer, singer, dancer, and actress as well. Your daughter. So, and we've all worked with each other somehow or another.
have.
But I really appreciate what you do. And if by chance Adolf the bird ever needs to find a new home, if you're getting a little,
You're not getting the bird, George.
okay,
You're
that's
not
fine.
getting
Actually,
the
you know
bird.
what? I will. This sounds wrong, but I will give you the bird. I will bring the bird to you.
That actual bird or different birds?
No, Adolf.
Okay.
I will bring him Adolf.
Well,
Okay.
I was going to use that sound clip. I will give you the bird. Well, this has been wonderful, John. And again, vintiquary.com, VINTIQUARY.
Absolutely.
.com. And so you can link over to John's work at the Santa Clarita Artists Association website as well. Fast Frame in August. I know they kind of switch out, and I think it's great. That's Fast Frame in Valencia. We're doing a live remote from there later on today. So that is wonderful, and please continue to support the arts, and especially artists young and seasoned.
Seasoned.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of people start out at Magic Mountain, and you kind of got your job later on in life. So that's fascinating. A turn of events. John, Claudia, thank you so much for stopping by. Always a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
I'm a big fan of your work.
Thank you.
12:24, we'll be back with our next guest.